Take you to KwaZulu Natal because the scramble for water remains a daily challenge for Jozini residents. This despite their close proximity to one of Africa's biggest man-made dams, the Pongola Poort. Rights to harvest water from the dam for human consumption has been a bone of contention for decades now. Ahead of voter registration this weekend, the DA's KwaZulu Natal Premier candidate Chris Pappas is visiting the Jozini area. We speak now to Newzroom Afrika's Ntando, Mnyandu, more so Ntando, about why harvesting water for human consumption is such a contentious issue there.
Well, Jozini, as you correctly put it, we are coming to you live from Jozini Dam. That's how it is affectionately known, but the real name is Pongola Poort Dam. It's the biggest, man-made dam in the northern hemisphere. It's counted amongst 3 biggest dams in Africa. But what I can tell you is that the real bone of contention is the right to harvest water for human consumption. You would know that residents here in Jozini, in as much as they are close to this dam, but they cannot enjoy the water that this dam has because those rights are, in a way, reserved for certain individuals. There are people that are being named and called by names who have specific rights, to harvest water from this dam for irrigation purposes, yet people struggle to find water to drink. But we've been here since yesterday, talking to residents, expressing their plight for water, saying that it becomes a Christmas day if they open a tap and water comes out. But right now, coincidentally, we are speaking to KZN Premier candidate for DA, Mr. Chris Pappas, who's here on an oversight visit as he understands that people here struggle and scramble for water. Mr. Pappas, you are here. You have seen for yourself. There is a dam full of water, but locals don't have water.
Absolutely. As you can see, the dam is full, and there's a lot of potential here to actually give people in this area water. But this is not the only place in KwaZulu Natal. We have many dams, Newzroom, Albert Falls, Midmar. There's all the dams that we have. There's so much water, and all the dams are full. Yet in many places in KZN, particularly in rural areas, you see that taps run dry. It's even worse when the infrastructure is actually there and there's no water in the taps. So we have a water crisis in this province. And obviously linked to that is also sanitation. But one has to wonder what the drive is when we have so much resources, have so many resources in this province. One of the things that we have seen in many rural areas is the use of water tankers and the lucrative businesses that exist around water tanking. I use my municipality, for example, where the Mnyandu district looks after water provision. There is infrastructure in areas such as Impopomeni, Kwahaza, Nguka, yet there's no water in the taps. Much like here in the Jozini area, there's infrastructure but no water. But you see endless contracts that go to water service providers through tankers. And this is in most cases to 1 or 2 companies across the whole province, the likes of Aqua Transport and the like, who've long been fingered in questionable contracts throughout the province. But I think the real thing is here to say, well, if we've got the resources and we've got the money to put the infrastructure in, why is the water not being delivered to households? We can live without electricity. It's inconvenient and it's terrible. But we can't live without water. And that is the problem that we see in many, many rural towns and many, many rural villages.
Then what are you undertaking to do to try and assist these helpless people here in Jozini who've been crying for water for decades now?
So one of the things that we are doing is drawing on the human rights report that was recently published at the provincial legislature, which paints a dire picture of water in the province. There's a few things. So firstly, this particular district, Mnyandu, has had a lot of political instability, which has led to the inability of rollout of infrastructure projects. But whether it's under expenditure of MIG, which is Municipal Infrastructure Grant, or the lack of prioritization, for example, building community halls over putting pipes in. And we're using our power at the provincial legislature through the Department of Cooperative Government to leverage and force the provincial government to intervene in situations like this where it's becoming a human rights issue. More than that, we need to take it a step beyond that. There needs to be long-term planning in terms of water resources in our province, working together with water service authorities, water boards, to ensure that there is a sustainable resource and rollout and management of the particular resource. So we are regularly engaged with those sorts of structures, your Mgeni Water waters, like in this area where there's other service providers, to try and figure out how to best utilize the resources without taking away power from those who are actually implementing projects. There's a big fear around a lot of management of water resources, particularly in the agricultural sector, to say where government manages resources, and we've seen this with Ntando water, we've seen this with Chugela water, the schemes collapse, and this affects everyone, not only agriculture and industry, but also residents. So we need a much more sustainable way to manage our water resources in this province.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pappas.
Thank you for the time.
Well, that is Chris Pappas, the DA's premier candidate for the province of KwaZulu Natal, saying that, we need a sustainable approach into solving this problem of water shortage, especially in far-flung areas like Jozini. As you would know that in some instances, most communities have the infrastructure. The scheme of water is there on the ground, but the willingness to disperse water and distribute water to needy communities still remains a challenge. With that, it's back to you in studio.
Quite challenging to actually look at the solution to your problems, but you can't touch it. Hopefully we can get reply from the relevant authorities in Ntando, Mnyandu in KwaZulu Natal as to what their understanding of the problem is. For now, we say thank you very much for that report.